Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce Brian Nevins, the Erlanger Police Chaplain, to give our invocation, please.
If you would please join me in prayer. Dear holy and gracious God, thank you for the many and abundant blessings. Thank you also for the freedom to gather and direct our lives and bear the responsibilities of our own well-being. We pray for Mayor Fetty and for our city manager, Matt Kremer, our city council, whom we regard with gratitude for their service. And Lord, we desire to live our lives in peace. And so we ask that you graciously grant our city leaders the ability to work together in harmony when there is honest disagreement. Unity above all for the sake of city progress, with the setting aside of personal differences and agendas. We ask for wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting. We ask for insight to create an environment where compassion is encouraged, personal peace in their lives and joy in their task as they serve those who elected them, and for a citizenry that is involved. We pray for the agenda that's set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved friendship city of Erlanger. And we pray this in the most blessed name of Jesus. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Brian. Okay, I now call the April 2nd, 2019 regular meeting of the City Council to order. Let's go ahead and rise for the pledge, please. Okay, I'll ask Ms. Meggerly to take roll, please.
Mr. Burke? Here. Mr. Cahill?
Present.
Ms. Kyle?
Here.
Mr. Skidmore? Here. Ms. Sudkamp?
Here.
Ms. Cahill?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Ms. Skidmore?
Here.
Ms. Pitts?
Here.
Mr. Nicely? Ms. Reckers?
Here.
Mr. Hermes?
Here.
Thank you. You've all received a copy of the minutes for the March 5th, 2019 regular council meeting and the March 19th, 2019 special council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Mrs. Kyle, do I have a second? Mr. Cahill? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, you've all also received a copy of the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any additions to be made at this time? Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt it as presented. Mrs. Sudkamp and Mrs. Kyle. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, our special presentation today is a business spotlight on Tua's Poultry Farm. A presentation or?
Push a button or okay. Hey, I'm Dan Tuas from the Tuas Poultry Farm. I'm guessing everybody here knows where that is. Is there anybody not familiar with the Tuas Poultry Farm? Okay. We were asked to give a little speech. It's our 75th anniversary at the Tuas Poultry Farm this year. And we are asked to just to tell us a little bit what we do or what we've done over the years. We moved to the farm in 1944. Back then we bought it off of Dusings, who was related to the Dusing Ice House. I'm sure everybody knows where the Dusing Ice House. Actually, most of the older Dusings were actually born at the farm. And at that time, it was rented to another family who used it as literally a garbage dump and a pig farm. So it was really in ruins. So over the years, my dad had cleaned it up, and we built buildings and developed a fairly reasonable business. And in the late 50s, my dad started raising turkeys, and the turkeys is our main money maker. And we've had as many as 10,000 laying chickens, and we've cut back way on laying chickens because eggs, there's no money in eggs. So our main business is turkeys now. And I just want to say that, you know, I don't know if anybody's not familiar with the family, but I'm one of 18. I'm the 13th out of 18. And Dad passed away in 1988, and my brother and I ran the farm till 98, and I've run the farm ever since then. So I've been there for 21 years now. Me and my family, my wife Darlene and our family pretty well run the business, but as you know, we have a big family, and when we need help at Thanksgiving time, everybody pitches in. So we have a good family that's able to do that. There's a little bit other thing. Actually, the farm is a lot older than that. My grandpa started the business near Finke's Market there in Fort Wright, near Fort Perry, actually, and started raising chickens in his backyard, and then moved to Charter Oak in the 1920s. And he liked to tell this story where how he first started out. He had laying chickens, and back then they sold them for a penny an egg. They didn't even put them in dozens back then. There wasn't egg gardens. So they sold them a penny an egg, and then when he started hatching out chicks, he used to get a nickel a chick. And then he realized he started coloring chicks, and everybody I think here is familiar with that. Back then it was not illegal. They've outlawed that now. But when he started coloring chicks around Easter time, they would sell like hotcakes. He could get a quarter a chick. So when he sold it for a quarter a chick, he made, like you said, 5 times the amount of money. And he says, I was able to pay off my farm debt in 2 years. So he had the farm paid off before the 20s was over, before the Great Depression. And then, so that's the start of the farm. But then we developed, at this farm here, we developed a delivery service. And we delivered all through Erlanger. And I think one of our customers was actually Mr. Hahn here. He's here somewhere. I forgot where he went. Anyway, so we delivered all through Erlanger, and then we delivered up to about 2008, and we cut way back. But in 2008, when the stock market fell and the price of gasoline went up to $5 a gallon and eggs were $4 a dozen, nobody buy eggs. So it was a loss leader, you might say. So we come to our senses and concentrated on a little more other stuff like I said, turkeys. So that's pretty well it in a nutshell. You want to add anything?
Like Dan said, I'm Dan's younger brother, and I left the farm when I got married, and just because we're trying to cut back, and it was real established, and we didn't need my extra help, so I kind of moved on, and in construction business right now. But one thing we sure thank as a family, we thank Dan Darlene. This happens all the time, so don't worry about it. Dan Darlene took this farm over. It was a heck of a duty and a heck of a responsibility as far as family-wise. And it really means a lot to us, the rest of the family. When we go back at Thanksgiving time, Christmas time, to help out with the labor that it takes to prepare the birds for everybody else to eat. But it's, you know, we really get together, and then you get together and bond a little bit more as a family, because when we've got such a large family, it's hard to stay in contact with so many. And so you hear all the stories about what's going on with new kids, or kids going off to college, kids growing up, more baptism, another wedding coming up, and so it's a really a great time, even though it's a lot of long days right around Thanksgiving. I take off a couple days work, and some of the others do also, and just to help out with what we can, because it's really important to us growing up there and being a part of something so special for our family for so long. And we feel are a great part of the community and part of Erlanger for so long. You know, however, every time you went somewhere, you know, a lot of people say they're from Greater Cincinnati, but we always say we're from Erlanger. So, but it's a really nice town and city. So, I think that's all I've got to say.
Just one other thing, I want to thank my wife. I want to thank my wife, Darlene, and the rest of my family for helping me out over the years, because I couldn't do it alone. And the one other thing I want to reply to is he said we're a large family. So I'm one of 18, and we have 80 grandchildren now, and great-grandchildren is up to 160. I'm sorry? I thought Mary told me 160 last night. There's a few on the way, too, so.
Won't be long.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. I can tell by when you guys are talking, this is truly a labor of love. And we are so blessed to have a wonderful family-owned business in our community. So thank you for being a staple and an icon of Erlanger. Thank you. We have a proclamation for you that I'd like to read. You guys get a special day in Erlanger from here on out. All right. So I know we should have. To all to whom these presents shall come. Whereas Tua's Poultry Farm, who specializes in quality poultry in northern Kentucky, is celebrating their 75th year anniversary. And whereas Tua's Poultry Farm started with John Tuas in Edgewood, Kentucky. In March of 1944, he moved his family and business to the city of Erlanger, where it remains there to this day. As his family grew larger, 17 children to be exact, he expanded his sales to the community. And whereas Tua's Farm became a landmark in the city of Erlanger, for many families in the tri-state, it is a tradition to get their turkeys, chickens, eggs, bacon, and produce from this family-owned farm. They have always taken pride in providing fresh eggs, chickens, and turkeys. And whereas Tuas Farm is currently ran by Dan Tuas, the 13th child, his wife Darlene, and their family. The extended family comes back to help at the holidays. The Tuas family sells about 3,000 free-range chickens in the November and December months. And whereas the Tuas family also supports the local high school by recycling old egg cartons, paper and plastic grocery bags, cans of paint, old ink cartridges, and cell phones. And whereas the mayor of Erlanger, Kentucky, would like to congratulate the Tuas family on their past and future years of success. Now, therefore, I, Jessica Fetty, mayor of the city of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim April 3rd, 2019, to be Tuas Poultry Farm Day in Erlanger, and do commend this observance to all our citizens. Given under my hand and the seal of the city of Erlanger on this day of April 2nd, 2019.
I'm sorry. I can't. Get up here off me. Thank you very much.
All right, now I'd like to introduce Senator Chris McDaniel. If you'd like to come to the podium.
Oh, there we go. Got to turn that on. There's no better family than them, and you know, Stephanie's the dean at the kids' school, and I pour concrete with Eddie almost every day, and saw Miss Cook at St. Pat's serving on Saturday or Friday night, and they're just the best. And one other thing everybody knows is at Thanksgiving, everybody in the Tuas family makes the exodus back to the farm to get it ready. So congratulations, guys. You sure something, and appreciate you. So anyway, I wanted to thank you guys again, as in previous years, for letting me work with you in Frankfort and be your state senator. I obviously represent Erlanger as well as every other city between 275 and the river here in Kenton County, in Edgewood, Ellesmere, Ryland Heights, and Taylor Mill. And had the opportunity to do a lot of good work. This was obviously a short session by Constitution, which means 30 legislative days. But anybody who observed it or was part of it will tell you it was the longest short session we've ever been part of. There was a lot of work done. So jumping in to things that I worked on, first of all was Senate Bill 5, which would move the constitutional elections, this is governor on down, into an even-numbered year. As you know, we're in that cycle right now where we'll be in an odd-numbered year. I've run that bill 6 out of the 7 years that I've been in Frankfort, and 6 out of the 7 years it's died in the House, and I kept my streak alive this year, and got killed in the House once again, but we continue to try. It's a good common sense money-saving measure. One that did pass, though, was Senate Bill 60 to move the filing deadline. Previously, filing deadlines had been at the end of January. This moves it to the beginning of January. For anyone who's been affiliated with state government, you know in the short-numbered sessions, or the longer sessions, we have a problem with folks who really want to kind of lay down the first 3 weeks or so as we wait for a filing deadline. And so this just pushes that up, trying to get more accomplished in those longer sessions. I also passed Senate Bill 202, which restructured the Convention and Visitors Bureau Board. As you'll recall, we had what we believe is the largest Convention and Visitors Bureau embezzlement in the history of North America at our local CVB this past year, and needed to bring more oversight to that, and it requires more oversight from the judge's executive, and also requires more people with financial experience on that board than were previously required. I had Senate Bill 205, which is guardian ad litem reform, which is something I'm very passionate about. And then also House Bill 358 was the tax bill update. So I've heard from a lot of you about mainly the not-for-profit issue. There were some issues regarding sales tax on admissions, and what we did is we clarified that for all nonprofits, there are no sales tax on admissions, and also for fundraisers, there's no tax on the fundraisers. This was not always the case before, but we did clarify that. It had an emergency clause on it, which means when the governor signed it, which he's already done, it went into effect. So you don't need to worry about those things moving forward. We also dealt with the pensions for the quasi-governmental agencies. These are folks like your rape crisis centers, your mental health agencies, your health departments. They're in a terrible quandary where they want to stay in the pension system, but the fact is they can barely afford half of their payment for that benefit. So we passed a bill that would provide them a sustainable path to exit the system while protecting the benefits of those who are expecting a pension at the same time. House Bill 268 dealt with the few modifications to the budget, but the one thing that we really did there that was important to Northern Kentucky is we clarified the funding formula for the area development districts. This has been an ongoing fight. Very much those who understand how the ad districts are funded realize that this was a change about 2 years ago that we've been working to rectify, and hit one last hurdle encountered this last time around, but we did fix that in House Bill 268 to get the Northern Kentucky ad back to where its funding should be. Other significant bills before we get into city and county items. First of all, Senate Bill 4 deals with electronic filings of campaign finance reports. There's a really one of the things that people don't know about filing campaign finance reports is right now they're sent in on paper for the most part. And then this huge stack of paper accumulates down in Frankfurt, and literally there are about 2 or 3 people who sit in and one line at a time keystroke it in. And it's nothing to have for big campaigns to be filing a 30 or 40-page report, and people have to keystroke it in and then put it online. And what you've seen happening is people begin to game the system, especially as they get down to the last several weeks of reporting, and they'll take the full grace period, and knowing that by the time everything gets keystroked in, folks won't know before they go to the polls exactly how a campaign was funded. This, when you file electronically, as soon as you hit send, people can see who's donated to this campaign, how their expenditures go, things like that. Senate Bill 1 was school safety, providing for more school resource officers and also more mental health professionals in our schools. Senate Bill 6 dealt with executive branch lobbying. They're developed a bad habit in Frankfurt of people calling themselves consultants and not lobbyists, so that they didn't have to follow all of the rules of executive branch lobbying. So we basically clarified the relational nature of those folks so they do have to report what they're doing. Senate Bill 31 deals with sibling visitation, making sure that if you have kids that are in foster care, that ensuring that siblings who are not placed together have regular visits, which is very important. We clarified that strangulation is a Class D felony. You might be surprised to know that strangling somebody prior to this session was not a felony in the Commonwealth. And Senate Bill 7 was a big deal for the employers and also for the ad district. Basically said that employers can require arbitration as a condition of employment. Of items of interest to the cities and counties, first of all, Senate Bill 148 deals with disposal of excess property. Senate Bill 89 deals with cleaning up meth houses and your ability as a city to recover your costs when you have to do that. Senate Bill 104, this will affect your fire department. So it basically says you cannot use Class B foam for firefighter training. So I'm not sure whether or not you guys are actively using Class B foam, but that's no longer allowed. Senate Bill 140 is a grant program to provide hepatitis A inoculations for first responders. Senate Bill 230 allows for email and fax requests for open records. You might be surprised to know that that was actually not allowed prior to this year. Senate Bill 131, and this will touch on your police department here, basically says that if you have DNA evidence, you cannot destroy the evidence prior to a criminal trial. House Bill 69 allowed more flexibility with local investments. You may know that this has been something the Kentucky League of Cities has been pushing for a long time, that if you have a certain level of financial ability, you can take slightly more risky investments. They're still, by personal investing standards, very, 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 very safe investments, but it allows a little more ability for financially viable cities. House Bill 26 basically says that you can do local purchasing up to $30,000 without advertising, whereas previously that threshold was at $20,000. House Bill 49, now this gets to a case that we saw locally where we had a person retire after an election knowing that they would be rehired when they were sworn in the next year. Well, 2 years ago we thought we had dealt with this, but the problem was we dealt with it after general elections. Well, last year we had a couple folks win primaries who were unopposed in general elections, so as soon as they won the primary, they retired and waited for their swearing in so that in essence they could start back a pension as well as a salary job. And we basically clarified that that would be a pre-existing arrangement and you can't do that anymore. House Bill 141 basically says that if you're seizing property and selling it as part of asset forfeiture, that has to go into a restricted account. House Bill 191 deals with the revocation of peace officer certification. And the biggest thing there is if a law enforcement officer retires while under investigation or quits while under investigation, as you know, that investigation in many cases just stops and there's no personnel action to follow that person. This would say that that would be reported to DOCJT so that when they went to apply at another department, that would be noted, because we have seen a lot of cases of folks quitting in lieu of disciplinary action, and the very few bad apples that exist are bouncing department to department in a lot of places. House Bill 240 deals with judges, executive, and the time frame to nominate folks. 335 exempts sales of government property from appraisal if they're worth less than $5,000. House Bill 337 is one that will really affect us a lot up here, which says that deputy sheriffs do not have to reside in the Commonwealth. Prior to this, we weren't allowed to hire deputies who lived in Ohio. House Bill 339, I'm not even going to go into very much because it cleans up a ton of old city statutes, but I will tell you, you can no longer hire a city marshal as part of it. And then lastly, House Bill 397 lets sheriffs charge up to $60 for services that are requested. Right now, that cap is at $30. We've got a lot of cases where sheriffs are doing long-term evictions and things of that nature and can't recover but $30, and so this helps them out with that. We did many more things this session, applying to every facet of life, large and small, but these are the ones I think are of most consequence and also of most consequence to cities and counties. So I do thank you for letting me come in tonight and for us all working together to try to provide the best government we can. We're all members of the community, we're all employers, we're all coaches, have kids laying on the floor, whatever the case may be. But I do thank you as we work together for the best governance that we can.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all
Thanks for
very much
being
tonight.
here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Next is citizens' comments. Do you have the sheet, Dave, by any chance? And I know that there are quite a few people that are here with regards to the property on Kenton Lands. So I'd like to take a moment, Dave, if you wouldn't mind talking about the Kenton Lands property, just to try to explain what's going on with that piece
Sure.
of land.
Sure, I can do that. I just got a few slides that I put together here as Mrs. Fetters came in today and met with the mayor and I and had some concerns and asked if we could do a small little presentation to explain where the project is and what's involved with it and what it means to you all as neighbors at Crestview Hills. The property was owned by the Long family, and it was sold, and it's being developed by Delphin Development Group out of Dallas, Texas. The zoning of the property is Industrial Park 1. We researched back, and it's been industrial since, well, the city annexed it in 1950, and it's been industrial since the farthest zoning map we could find was 1953. So, and it was industrial at that particular point. As you can see up here, the colors didn't come out real well, but what you see there in the, what I'll call purple, the IP1, that is the property in question. As it comes back, it abuts that green area that is marked as IP, which is unincorporated Kenton County. And then if you come across to the other area, that's Crestview Hills, that's in the pinkish, right in that area. Go to the next one, if you would. That's how the property's approximately 24 and a half, just under 25 acres. What they're proposing is an approximate 300,000 square foot building that is, at this point, or what we've been told, intended for warehousing and a distribution kind of thing, a fulfillment center with numerous truck and trailer storage lanes in the back of the building where it goes back like to the railroad tracks. And then there's two ingress and egresses, as you can see, on either side of the building as they come out onto Kenton Lands Road. The next one, if you would. the next one, if I could. You can't read this real well, but this is the current zoning of the property and the uses that are permitted on the property. And it permits warehousing and wholesaling and freight terminals and such. So what they're proposing to put there is a permitted use in that particular zone. So there was no type of zoning change amended or needed to go through the Kenton County Planning Commission. It just meets the zoning requirements, and what they're proposing to build meets our zoning requirements. So they're good to go. Now, if you could go back to the other one. Now, how that affects you all from our zoning regulations as it relates to what's known as buffer between the two properties. As you can see, the property, in our particular zone, it's IP1, and on the left-hand side of the page, it talks about the development type of use, which ours is IP1, and then the adjoining use that it's adjoining is IP. However, that's not in the city of Erlanger, so we use the like use of the same, being the same zone. So then on the right side is the buffer yard types that have to be there. And if you look at the very top there, the buffer yard A is what's required, which basically, I know it's hard to see, but I'll read it. It involves for every 100 foot where they abut the back line, the IP zone that's in unincorporated Kent County, they have to have 5 small trees, 3 large, medium, or evergreen trees, and 30 shrubs. And then ground cover is what they have to have for every 100 feet. Now that can be reduced. I know there's been a lot of trees removed, but if there's any line of trees, those numbers can be reduced if some of those trees and screening is still in place, that they can mix and match in. So that's about the project in a short form. So if
Thank you,
anybody has
Dave.
any questions.
I appreciate that.
problem.
So with that being said, we can take the questions here. We have Joan Wertenberger is first on the list with David. You guys would like to come?
I just have some really basic questions, and I guess our basic concern is that the trees are pretty inadequate for coming up against a residential area. And I think the fact that the building is basically separated by that unincorporated Kenton County area is certainly good luck to that Dallas developer when they're coming in, because when you look at the height of that building and the density on that site, it defies common sense. Acoustically, there is a train back there, which has been barely manageable, really, for the whole neighborhood. And now we're going to have it bouncing off of a 32-foot high structure, and the acoustics are already noticeably different. I think that the lighting is of real concern. You're going to have lighting polluting the area nonstop. All the dock doors are on that back side. I'm sure it's going to be a 24/7 operation, so the lights will not be turned off. So that's a really big concern, and it should be a concern of yours. But more importantly, I think the concern for all the communities is this increase of semis that need to get to the expressway. And that more than likely is going to be Dixie Highway. And Kenton Lands Road is already pretty miserable. So I don't think I'm telling you anything new, but I don't know that you realize how concerned we are. Thank you.
My name is David Wertenberger. I live at 122 Druid Lane in Crestview Hills. Mine and my wife's residence is about 500 feet from this property. I have some basic questions, and maybe Dave can answer these for me. Under your IP zone, Dave, it says 25-acre site, and under the developer's propaganda that he's produced, He says it's 24.8 acres, and I guess it would require variance from the city of Erlanger to allow this development to happen. Is that correct? It says right here, 25 acres, and they proposed
That's
24.
for the entire development. If you look,
So this isn't the entire development?
that's the entire development, but minimum lot area within the minimum tract is 1 acre. So this is the minimum tract for development. This is the, if somebody was going to build an entire industrial-type park, they have to have a minimum of 25 acres. Each lot in that zone has to be 1 acre to be built upon.
Okay. Is this the 150, what is this dimension here? Is this the setback?
I can't tell by this, Dave, what that is.
I think this is the street.
That's the
right
street.
here.
Mhm, that's
I
the
think
street and
this
the
is
street right away.
setback, And I'm not so sure it meets the minimum side yard requirement of 150 feet.
I don't have the site plan in front of me, the engineered site plan, and this is not the engineered site plan.
Has the Northern Kentucky Area Planning approved this project?
The Northern Kentucky doesn't have to. It meets our zoning regulations, and so therefore all it needs to do is pass the building codes and the city zoning ordinance.
Okay, and it meets the rear yard requirements.
Well, the ordinance talks about if it abuts a railroad property, they don't need a setback. But yes, it meets it.
And this doesn't encroach here.
Well, the building is here.
So
There has to be a 10-foot,
buffer.
yeah. And we'll assure that that occurs.
Okay.
Mrs. Fetters, would you like to come to the... Mr. Hahn, can you speak louder, please, when you come to the microphone? Thank you.
Basically, what Dave has said is that the proposed development meets all of the requirements in the IP1 zone. Is that not correct? Okay, I also have the same concerns that my wife has. The traffic, I have no idea where the semis are going to go, but they're going to get to the expressway somehow, some way, and it's going to cripple Dixie Highway, which is going to be the shortest path of least resistance, and my impression is that they will go in that direction. That will not be a problem for the city of Erlanger. That will be a problem for the city of Crestview Hills, because most of Dixie Highway, the path that they will travel on, is in the city of Crestview Hills. I can tell you that I can lay in bed at night, and I moved in approximately 6 years ago, and now that they've taken the trees down, the noise has drastically increased from the train traffic because of the removal of all the trees in the property. I'm concerned about the amount of activity that's going to occur here. This is going to be a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week operation, and the residents of Crestview Hills will bear the brunt of it. Thank you.
Just for a small bit of clarification, we do not know a tenant for this building at this time. So we do not know whether it's going to be a 24-hour, 7 days a week. There's no tenant at this time.
Well, if I can respond to that, I think they mentioned that Amazon was going to be the tenant. Thought I read that somewhere.
We have
And
gotten absolutely
Amazon's
no...
new Prime Air Hub. Maybe not.
Okay. Bill and Betsy. I'm not exactly sure the last name. It starts with an H.
I think obviously the residents of Crestview Hills are just hoping that the zoning that is applied to this particular project in regards to landscaping, in regards to traffic, in regard to sound is adhered to by the company with, by Nair or whoever is the owner of this piece of property. Obviously, we're just kind of an outsider on this thing, hoping that it works out for everybody. And we know we have some skin in the game, but we don't have any way to really combat it other than with you all adhering, making them adhere to the zoning regs, and hope they do a good job. Traffic is, I think, a concern. You look at Dixie Highway, you look at it and you almost want to, can they go out and end up on that Mineola Pike exit would be their ingress and egress coming in the back way, which would prevent the traffic in Erlanger and prevent the traffic on Dixie Highway. So we just hope you all take a look at everything. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to jump around slightly just so that we can stay on one topic. Joanne Han.
Hello, I'm a resident of Crestview Hills, and I live on Parkway, which does not back up to this development, but it does, we're a block parallel to the high school, Dixie Heights High School. And I will tell you that the lighting, we can't watch television in our family room without the drapes closed. And we can hear the noise of every football game, which is great because it's kids having fun. But I am concerned for my neighbors up the street that are going to have a different lighting and noise problem than we are.
Thank you. Dave, do you have anything else to add? Okay. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate you guys being here and expressing your concerns. Please know that we will make sure that Al Nair is following our zoning regulations according to how they are written, and we'll make sure that we're doing the best that we can to work with them about a buffer. They're a very good company to work with. I don't know if you are familiar with the Showcase Cinema property, but Al Nair is the one that's developing that property as well, and they've been a fantastic company to work with. So we do have a very good relationship with them. So to be able to have a conversation and explain these concerns to them won't be a problem. Okay, next on the list is Jenny Burnell.
Hi, my name is Jenny Bonnell, and this is my neighbor Julie Shoemate, and we live in Sherborne. We are here over concern over 2 dogs repeatedly running loose in our backyards. On February 11th, I observed the dogs attack and subsequently kill one of Julie's cats in my backyard. On that day, I called the non-emergency dispatch line, and eventually they did send officers to my house to talk to me and animal control. At the time, they told me there was really nothing they could do unless they observed the dogs out loose. Since then, since that incident, the next day I spoke with Officer Jewett, who my understanding is the code compliance officer, based on a referral from another neighbor who's spoken to him several times about the dogs also being loose. He told me that the neighbors, that we should all call non-emergency dispatch when we see the dogs, but that they prefer to have police officers witness the dogs being loose because they don't like to pin neighbors against each other. Since that initial incident, at least a handful of times neighbors have called non-emergency dispatch reporting that the dogs have been seen running. And so I'll let Julie talk about the next time that they affected her.
It was March 14th. I saw on our neighborhood site that they had been seen running through the yards, and then it was the same night that my cat Diego went missing. So the next day, it was on a Thursday. So the following Monday, I called Officer Jewett. The cat was still missing. I'm looking through the woods for him and everything. And I called Officer Jewett to see what steps to take. And no, it was Monday. I found Diego up in her boys' treehouse. He was hurt. The whole back leg was skin off, and it was a horrible, horrific experience. And so after talking to Jenny, I called Officer Jewett on Tuesday and said, you know, nobody saw the dog. They saw the dogs out Thursday when Diego went missing. I found him the following Monday, and he's hurt. He's been attacked. What's going to happen next? And he said that the citation went out the first time on February 11th, and it was mailed to them. And that's, honestly, somebody should have gone to the house and talked face to face with these people. It shouldn't have happened again. And now we're getting the runaround. Whose job is it? And we want something done about it. The kids can't even play outside because they're scared of the dogs. We just saw the dogs out.
The dogs were out. I saw the dogs out on Saturday. And before that, last week, I spoke with Animal Control. I spoke with the woman in charge of Animal Control, Becky, who said she was going to go and pull all the dates that it had been reported that the dogs were seen, and reiterated to call the non-emergency dispatch number when we see them. A sergeant from Animal Control called me the next day because no one had ever taken a witness statement from me from the February 11th incident, so we talked about that. She told me there was enough for a lawsuit to deem the dogs vicious, but since then, we can't get anyone to do anything. I called on Saturday as soon as I saw them running. The problem is they are now repeatedly coming to our backyards, the wooded area between our street and the street behind us.
And once they've had the opportunity to do it one time, and they've killed the cat, they know that there's 2-3 cats over there, they're going to come back every single time to that area. And it's right near the tree where all the kids play.
When I spoke with the sergeant at Animal Control, she said to call the non-emergency dispatch, who would then dispatch an animal control truck every time. Well, when I called on Saturday, when the police officer got there, I said, why are you here? We were told animal control would be dispatched. And he said, they're not going to come. They never come. They always dispatch us. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And he said, all I can do is try to lure the dogs into the back seat of my car and take them to the shelter. So then he told me he was going to go, and I told him repeatedly where we keep seeing the dogs. I said, it doesn't do you any good to sit at the end of these people's driveway because the dogs run through the woods. And he said, well, I'll go sit over there and watch. Well, within 5 minutes, the dogs ran across that street, and he was nowhere to be found. A neighbor then watched him pull down the street. She went outside to tell him that they just missed the dog, and in that minute, he turned around and left. So we feel like Officer Jewett has told us to call him personally. Animal Control has told us to call non-emergency dispatch, and they would be sent. The police officers are telling us Animal Control isn't going to come, and there's really nothing they can do. So now we're at a loss. We feel like we're getting the runaround. We wonder if there's something else going on there, that no one will go and speak to the homeowners or the dog owners. We just want closure on this. The weather is warmer. Kids are constantly running out back there. None of the neighbors will allow their children to play in the backyard right now because we don't know when the dogs are going to be out there, and there's nothing that the police officers will do, or Animal Control. I have this great tree fort in my backyard for my kids to play in, and that's where the dogs are repeatedly going. So we're not comfortable putting them out, letting them out, and now all the trees are filling in, so we can't see as well, and we're just really frustrated.
And I don't blame the dogs. I blame the homeowners or the pet owners for not, keeping their dogs. They're negligent and they're irresponsible. And now I'm blaming, everybody who's been telling us different things. I mean, it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't have happened a second time. And now, I mean, it's going to continue to happen until, it's a child. And it's very, it's just very frustrating. So.
We have a lot of concern. We have neighbors on our website saying that they will shoot the dogs, which leaves us concerned about what if it's the wrong dog? What if a child is out there? What, all these things.
Again, it's not the dog's fault.
But we can't get an answer, and we can't get a police officer to go to the house and physically talk to the owners or restrain the dogs.
Okay, today is the first time I heard about it. I heard about it earlier. I've already talked to the police department and the codes officers about it. So if we can, this week we'll get together and figure out what the plan is moving forward. Just from brief discussions from them, they've said that they haven't witnessed them themselves, but there is more that we can do. So I'll get with them.
There has to be more that can be done. I mean, they've witnessed Animal Control has witnessed the cat, and taken it to, they know that it had to be euthanized. I mean, it's been witnessed. They haven't witnessed the dogs attacking.
But I did.
They've been they came out and had to get the cat. So, I mean, they should not, they're not going to witness it because.
Unless you're sitting there at any given time.
It happens so fast. I
They're
mean,
dogs.
within 5 minutes. They're vicious dogs, but again, I don't blame the dogs. I mean, I'm an animal lover. My parents have pit bulls, and you have to be a responsible pet owner, and this is not what's going on.
We will, like I said, I'll talk to both those departments and we'll get back with you.
Will you follow up with us, please?
Yes, I just said I'll get back with you. Officer Jewett does have both your contacts, I believe.
Should, and they're on
they're
there,
here. Okay.
our phone numbers.
Okay. Yep.
Do you know the address that they're coming from?
Yes, it's 4022 Sherborne Drive.
Thank you.
Like I said, they could be very, very sweet dogs. But once they've been given the opportunity to do what they've done, they're going to continue coming back and coming back. So, needs to be resolved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Tell
you.
me, Matthew Kramer. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
He's our city administrator. He will get back to you. We have your contact information here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we have Tanya Ritchie.
I'm here this evening about the development of Hulbert with the school. My parents bought their home on Hulbert over 50 years ago. They bought their home in a subdivision. The definition of a subdivision is acreage divided into lots for residential use. What you're proposing is a business. Saying it's a private school is a glorified business. They did not buy their home in a business district. I just want the council to know that we are opposing this. We have over 100 people opposing this. We're going to the county and we will be back in May. We do not want a school across from our homes. That's all I want to say is that we do not want this. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Ligas.
Hello, I'm also here about the proposed private school going across the street from, well, my mom lives at 3120. I live at 3170. I don't know how many people are aware of what this is going to bring to the Hulbert area. First off, it is zoned for single-family homes, as I'm sure some of you know. So we're just asking that it be kept that way and no conditional uses be granted. There are plenty of other places for this private school to go. They came before before the zoning committee last week, And they said they have 72 families that travel to them every day, plus 20 employees. They're looking to increase it by 150 families or students, which is 89 students currently. They propose that it will increase to 150 students within 4 to 5 years. Hallbert can't handle that kind of traffic. The only way that it is existing right now over there across from the ice skating rink, is with the 3rd lane. We have went up and down the street. I don't know, from what we can tell, most of the Hallbert residents weren't even made aware that this was happening, only the ones maybe directly across from it. So most of Hallbert is in the dark. They have no idea that the traffic by the next school year is going to increase by 100 cars right now, and that's not even the proposed up to 150 families that they're wanting to bring. There's plenty of land, else places that they could build this school. I realize that we are being bombarded with the industrial area because that's what it's zoned as on Kitten lands. But this specific land is zoned for single-family homes. There's a meeting on Thursday for anybody that is interested that the county commission is going to be going over the zoning also. We just ask that you respect the 70 residents on Hallbert and ask this private school to go elsewhere, please.
So just a couple clarifications. Thursday, it's the Kenton County Planning Commission is going to have their public hearing on the text amendment. So right now, under the residential zone, there allows for the conditional use of either a public school or a parochial school, okay? So we asked the applicant to make a text amendment, which that public hearing is Thursday. Now, last week, the Board of Adjustments, which is the body that grants those conditional approvals, not this council.
Correct.
The Board of Adjustments last week conditionally approved that condition, presuming that the text amendment gets passed.
Correct. And I was
And as far as notice, I just want to clarify one other thing on notice. All notice as it relates to the text amendment, that would be done by the Kenton County Planning Commission, and they did follow the statute on that notice as far as notifying adjoining property owners.
Correct. They probably notify, I guess they notified the ones that are directly across from it.
What they do, what's required by statute, right?
And I understand that.
Yeah, but that's why I just want to clarify that the public hearing on that will be Thursday at the Kenton County Planning Commission. So that would be...
Correct. But I know that this comes before your committee in May.
We would have to pass an ordinance based on the recommendation, either up or down, of what the Kenton County Planning Commission does.
Correct. Correct. And we just, we just want to make you aware, as I've lived on Hallbert for 25 years. It's our home. And like I said, I realized that the industrial area on Kitten lands was zoned, and we were blessed to have the woods as long as we did. But these 8 to 9 lots, please let that be homes. The school can go elsewhere. There's plenty of places for businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, is your mother here as well, Linda?
Hi, my name's Linda Martis, and I'm a resident of Hallbert Avenue, 25 years, a little bit more, and a lot's been said already. But my daughter and my son, we all went door to door on Hallbert and got signatures that people are totally against this bridge of cars and everything coming down to the school that they're wanting to build. I have a lot of experience with the press. I was with the Kentucky Post for 10 years plus, and I went up against the power plant, and all of us gathered, the neighbors and that, and everybody took the power plant down. But the problem with this, these people feel that the decision has been made before they were even notified. And it's sad because they don't know that there's going to, you know, all the noise is going to be increased. The traffic is already heavy. The traffic's going to be a whole lot more, not to mention the danger to the children that go to that school, you know, and are they going to have to put in another lane? The problem is they need to recognize people, and we could have got more, but at a certain point, the meeting was starting. And they were all shown a statement of what was being done. Now, this drawing was sent by Erlanger City Building, but it was just a few houses around, like a block or two around, across from the ground that they're mentioning. All the other part of the street was not even mentioned, but I handed out copies of this to everybody. So I hope that they can be listened to, because like I said, I was with the press over 10 years, and a lot of times things were decided, the public didn't even know about it, and the press could have cared less. And in all honesty, it's a lot that way now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martis. Okay, that is Tyson.
I was just going to ask that she share the statement that was written or that was shared with the people who signed. I don't know if you guys have a copy of that or not. Thank you.
I think it was made as a record at the Board of Adjustments hearing, but I was not there. Wasn't it made as a part of evidence at the Board of Adjustments? That was my recommendation at that time. Yeah.
Okay, that concludes public comment. Go ahead and continue with the agenda tonight, the mayor's report. I will be brief. I wanted to just give a really quick shout out to Sherry, who's not here right now. She's enjoying her family on spring break. But Renee and Kathy, I wanted to tell you guys how wonderful of a job you did with the government day. It was a real pleasure meeting the 60 kids from Tishner. And I really enjoyed that. So thank you for doing that, and thanks for letting me be a part of it. It was really special. Yeah.
I did want to make a comment on that. The teachers that supervised their classes were so totally different, okay? The kids, I don't know if you all know this, but for every year that UDF has given ice cream, these kids, it's a game. They want to see how many ice creams they can get out of UDF with. They stick it down their pants, they stick it in their shirts, they stick it in their hoods, you know, and I'm told to bring back what's left. Well, this time there was 4 ice creams. They put out 96 ice creams for 30 kids, okay? So, and this is where I think karma, okay? The one kid ate 4 ice creams and demanded a slice of pizza. He got sick, threw up, and the teacher made him clean it up.
I heard about that, and Sherry was devastated. It was quite sad. But everything else was just fantastic. she said she had a fantastic day, so, other than the puke. Yeah. Okay, just a couple other things. I was in the Erlanger Business Council leadership meeting this morning, and we've decided for our fourth Thursday, the Community and Business Advocacy meeting on the fourth Thursday, which would be May 23rd. We're going to highlight Erlanger government. So I'd like to invite you all and all of our department heads to participate in a government meet and greet for the Erlanger Business Council. So that would be at the Kenton County Library on the 23rd of May at 8:30 a.m. I would love for you to be there. I also wanted to just give a huge shout out to the people that have helped me with the Youth Leadership Academy over the last 4 Wednesdays. So this is a new program. It's for there are 12 sixth graders from Tishner, Turkey Foot, Summit View, and St. Henry. And I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed getting to know these kids. They are so amazing. And Chief Whitaker has been a phenomenal asset. And we just have a really good time with our kids. And Officer Joel Shepard is part of our team also. And last week, the kids got to go through the police department, and we surprised Doug Eagler, and he gave us an awesome tour, and we're just having a really good time. So I wanted to thank you so much. That is all I have. Now, for reports of committees, in the effort to keep some time, or give you guys some time back, what if we don't go through each one individually? Is that okay? If anybody has, so all the reports go out in an email, and all the reports are available online for all of our citizens. Does anybody have anything that is really special that they want to mention? Vicki?
Very quickly, this kind of amused me. We had 18 people graduate from the Citizens Police Academy, and they had such a wonderful time. They didn't want to go home. They want to keep coming back. So what they've done is they want to be volunteers, and I think that's just wonderful. And that speaks volumes for our police department. But it was kind of like a little, story that I thought was really cool. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and Linda Markwell could not have been happier. Oh my gosh, so happy. Anybody else? Okay, all right, so you've heard or received the reports of our committees. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Mrs. Kyle and Mrs. Sedkamp. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Reports of representatives, are there any tonight? Mrs. Skidmore?
Yes, I have a report for Kenton County Alliance. With spring break going on, I did not actually go to the meeting, but I had an email from Diana O'Toole, so I'll just read it real quick. I was unable to attend today's meeting of the Kenton County Alliance, but here's my report. House Bill 11 passed the House and Senate. This bill was implemented to make all public schools 100% smoke-free. Amendment 2 weakened the bill. It allowed adults to use tobacco when they felt that there were no students present. And Amendment 5 gives schools the option of opting out within the first 3 years. This next one is a little different topic. It says, what is Juul? That's J-U-U-L. It's an electronic cigarette that delivers flavorings and other additives through aerosol inhaled by the user. It comes in flavors like creme brulee, mango, fruit punch, mint, etc. Different from other electronic cigarettes as it is easily concealable and shaped like a USB flash drive. Reports of teens using in class by concealing JUUL in their hand and blowing the aerosol into their sleeves. I guess they're going to find a way to do it. And then I wanted to sum up a little more on Government Day. Kenton County Alliance helps support the Erlanger City Government Day. Once again this year, they provided items and bags for the students. 60 students earned this day-long field trip. The students start at the city building and go all the way across town, observing our parks, checking out the new development of the former List Farm, seeing our firehouses, visiting Public Works, and the Historical Society. By the way, Public Works was one of their favorite. And let's see. And they also check out the Historical Society. Commonwealth Avenue has been designated a state road because of its close proximity to the expressway, and it is designated as the detour route. So that's why a lot of the potholes on Commonwealth have not been fixed, because it is a state road and it's their responsibility. And I'm assuming if Erlanger jumps in and starts fixing one or two holes, it'll become our responsibility again. And I can't say enough about United Dairy Farm. They're very gracious to the city of Erlanger. They provide the tours of the plant. The kids actually get to walk into an ice cream freezer. I haven't done that. I've avoided that every year. I'm not into being cold. And then the students are treated with ice cream. Kenton County Alliance provides a drug quiz for the students on the bus. The questions are read, and the students answer collectively so that nobody's singled out by saying it was a wrong answer. The one class where the woman made the kid clean up the mess that he made, that class got that group of kids got every question right, and they answered in unison. The other group wasn't that good, but end of report.
Thank you, Renee. Anybody else? Ms. Pitts?
Mine will be pretty quick. We met with the Erlanger Center Connection Task Force meeting last week. After speaking to several residents from Sycamore and Cherry Hill, they have noticed a large decrease in semis cutting through. There's still a few, but it's definitely improved. So we're going to continue monitoring the issues and keeping in touch with these folks to make sure this continues to slow down. Funding's been allocated for design for Houston North this summer. It will be designed, I believe, by District 12, and they're using Jim Viox's plans as a model. The long-term plan is 4 lanes plus a turning lane from Donaldson to Old Erlanger Road. Senator McDaniel and State Representative Adam Koenig have done a wonderful job over the years making sure this remains a priority down in Frankfort. And for our next meeting, we're going to try to have a representative from Tank come to our meeting to discuss if we could possibly add a stop up there for the businesses to use up at the old showcase properties, and that's it.
If you need Andy Aiello's contact information with Tank, I have his card. Okay. Okay, anybody else? Tyson?
I just had a quick question for Mr. Viox. Have you redesigned that since the NIR plan has been approved? Because I know you had an old design that had raising that intersection of Erlanger Road in Houston by like 8 or 9 feet, and that doesn't need to happen now because of the gas line rerouting. Oh, it has been modified since then? Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Alrighty, and we have reports of city operations. City Attorney, Mr. Gatlin.
Yeah, I'll be really brief. We have a couple housekeeping municipal orders tonight on appointments of various boards. We also have the municipal order that we discussed at the committee meeting installing a stop sign on Hillwood Court. And then we have a resolution authorizing Mayor Fetty to execute the interlocal agreement. Interlocal agreement will be between Erlanger Ellesmere and Erlanger Ellesmere Schools, and it discusses the arrangement as it involves an SRO. I don't know if Mr. Kramer in his report wants to talk more about that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Kramer.
Yes, ma'am. Along with the SRO, we did renegotiate very minor changes to that contract. As you guys remember, last year we included Ellesmere into that. So we actually started paying less because the City of Ellesmere started paying 1/3 of the SRO cost, and we added an additional officer actually through Ellesmere. So we did that last year, which was a big benefit to everybody. Just about 50% of the citizens, or I guess citizens that attend the schools here are Ellesmere. I think it's actually 45%. But they, without hesitation, started putting their money up, which was great. This year we did raise the cost to, we budgeted off 1,700 hours for the SROs. We did raise it to 1,800. School was in complete agreement to that, so we're actually going to get a little bit more money to make it a little more accurate on what we spend on that. So that's a big plus. So that'll be the reading tonight, so we can get that approved through us. Ellesmere will have that reading this week, and then still hearing back from the school. But that should be good. The other thing, Senator McDaniel was here. He was very critical to many things that were passed this year. I think he was a little more humble than he needed to be. It's nice, I've got to visit Frankfurt twice this year during that to see some sessions, and his name came up very frequently, along with Adam Koenig also. So it's kind of nice going down there as a Northern Kentucky person and seeing their name over and over of how they're pushing things that really do benefit us. Up until the last minute when the bank franchise, which was going to be cut for all cities across the state, Senator McDaniel was one of the ones that were critical in making sure that that verbiage was placed in there, so the cities didn't lose that revenue source. So he's done a lot for this city this session. The other thing is the staff and I have been working on updating our policies, which I'll be pushing out to council here in a few weeks. I would ask for a vote to approve that in May. My intention was to have it ready for the committee meeting. I don't believe there'll be a lot of discussion. If there is discussion, we can always push it to a May committee if there's something we want to discuss publicly. There are a few things that are changing that involve funding and some expense. So I'll make sure that I do an executive summary so everybody kind of understands there, so you don't have to read the huge packet. But we've updated a lot of things that need to be updated, and we should have that done here in the next 2 weeks. Pending anyone's questions, that's all I have.
Okay, you've heard the reports of our representatives in city operations. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Mrs. Kyle and Mrs. Sedkamp. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Ms. Meggerly, do you have any correspondence this evening? Do not. Okay, thank you. All right, and are there any bids tonight? Does anybody have any old business to discuss?
I would like to have one thing added to the committee meeting agenda, and that's just to continue the discussion on the size of city council.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, does anybody have any new business to discuss? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say I went to Coffee with a Cop my first time, and it was really neat. I thank all you guys in the back, and I'd like to really thank the mayor. My grandson and her talk for 10 minutes. He's 4 years old. So I did appreciate it, and he did too. And that little toy camera took real pictures. Did you know it? I didn't know it. So my son saw pictures of you when he got home. Yeah, it was a little toy, but it worked. But anyway, thank you, and thank you guys, Chief, back there. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you. It was a pleasure. I'm pretty experienced with talking to 4-year-olds.
Yeah, he loved it. He had a great time.
He was awesome.
Thank you.
All right, so we have legislation now.
It's a municipal order of the City Council of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving the appointment of Councilmember Rebecca Reckers as a representative of the city to the Northern Kentucky Planning Development Services, PDS, and the appointment of Councilmember Gary Meyer as the alternate effective April 2nd, 2019. These would flow through December 31st of 2019.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this resolution as read? These are the girls on fire today. Mrs. Sudkamp and Mrs. Kyle. Do we have any discussion? Okay. I did just want to add one other thing. You will notice that the Municipal Government League is not on our agenda any longer. We nixed that. I don't know if you guys are aware that they hadn't met in a long time and we were paying a fee. So I kind of just done. Yeah. Nah, we don't need to pay them our money any longer. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Next is municipal order of the City Council of the City of Erlanger. You know what? I skipped one, didn't I? I'm sorry. You have these out of order tonight. Municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, requesting the City of Erlanger to properly designate and enforce no parking on 114 feet of Hillwood Court. The no parking shall be permitted within the circular loop of the Hillwood cul-de-sac, including the entrance area, which is the portion of the street extending to 22 feet from the terminus point of the cul-de-sac radius. This is 114 feet from the end of the cul-de-sac.
Okay, do I entertain a motion to adopt this resolution as read? Mrs. Reckers, do I have a second? Mr. Hermes. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye.
We got it. So I know we talked about this last time. I know I was in the minority of this, but I think doing these one at a time is going to cost us more time and more heartache and headache than needed or necessary. We really need to look at this from a standpoint of all-encompassing ordinance.
Would we like to add that to the committee meeting? Okay, we can talk about it.
I had a question about this one. Is this a 24/7, 365, no parking? So even though it's only geared towards the school hours in the bus, right? So weekends, summers, still no parking? Are we still able, as written?
I'd like to make a comment. Sherry was saying one of the students had an awesome idea on how to take care of that. So I don't know if somebody needs to check with Sherry and get her to share the idea with you. It sounded pretty decent to me, but I'm just a peon, so.
Sherry did share it with me, and she said to limit parking only during school hours, which is how it is out on Graves, right? But I know that that is a little more difficult for police officers to enforce. So I don't know if that's what went into this decision, why we are doing it this way. Should we do a roll call vote?
Right now, you have a motion and a second for the municipal order as written.
Correct.
But we certainly could have a motion to amend if someone wants to do this. I mean, I think we just did it this way because I think this is what we thought council wanted. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, because what was brought up, I know by Mr. Cahill, was it's important for all emergency services, public works, everybody. So I think that's why we went with this, but obviously we can adjust it as needed.
So I think also, we were also looking at getting some data from Public Works, which probably will take a few months to do. So, I mean, just to get everything we need necessary to kind of bring facts and figures back. So maybe the committee meeting will not be a good time because it may take a little bit longer than that. But if we do have that, great. If not, we can look at it at a later time. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a roll call vote would be good, you know, for the motion that's on the floor.
Yep. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Sudkamp?
You're voting on this
As
municipal
presented.
order as written.
Mr. Cahill,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore, Ms. Kyle,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Cahill, Ms. Pitts,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Reckers,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hermes,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carried. All right, your signs will go up very soon.
All right, next, we have a municipal order of the City Council of the City of Erlanger and Kenton County, Kentucky, approving the appointment of Councilmember Tom Cahill Jr. as the mayor's designee and representative of the City of Erlanger to the District Board of Health, effective April 2nd, 2019, and this would run through December 31st, 2019.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this resolution as read? Mrs. Pitts and Mrs. Reckers, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Finally, we have a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the interlocal agreement with the City of Ellesmere and the Erlanger-Ellesmere Board of Education. By summary, KRS 65255 requires there to be an interlocal agreement anytime there is a sharing of resources between governmental agencies, and this is for the SRO program, and it specifies that 1/3 of each cost would be borne by Erlanger-Ellesmere and the Erlanger-Ellesmere schools.
Do I entertain a motion that we adopt this resolution as read? Mr. Cahill and Mrs. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Do I entertain a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Kyle and Mr. Hermes, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have a great evening.